Should you get the Sony FX3 if you've been looking at getting a cinema camera? Yes, you absolutely should. Some would argue that it's not a full cinema camera because it's missing some features. But with the new version 2.0 software update that just came out, I think it's finally there. I think it's finally a full cinema camera. So what exactly did Sony add to the FX3 for this update here? Let's talk about it. Alright, so first things first, there's a new menu system. Over the years, Sony has had some pretty confusing menu systems for a lot of their cameras, and I know a lot of people do really like the menu system on the FX6 and the FX9. So with the FX3 and the A7S III for that matter, they really did improve their menu system to make it a lot closer to the experience on the FX6 and the FX9. But there were still a couple things that were a little bit confusing or just not the greatest overall. So it's not like they did a complete overhaul of the entire menu system or anything, but when you first boot up that menu, when you first hit that button, the first screen you're presented with is now different. There's a completely new layout here, which is a lot better. It shows you all of the basics and all of the main things that you want to focus on the most. And just with a quick tap of each of those sections, you can easily change any of those main settings as quickly as you can. Second would be the new log shooting settings. So there are a few different modes here, and again, I'm not going to go into an in-depth breakdown of what each one is because a lot of other people have covered that. But if you're looking for the most manual filming experience, something that you would expect to have from a camera, a cinema camera for that matter, then shooting in Cine EI is the best option for you. Now, this will basically lock you into one of the two base ISOs that this camera supports. So that is 800 ISO and 12,800 ISO. So you basically don't want to be shooting at anything else other than that if you really want to maintain the best quality, the best look, and have the least amount of noise or grain, not grain actually, noise in your footage. So by setting the log shooting settings to Cine EI, you'll be able to actually toggle between the two base ISOs. And from there, if you do want to increase your ISO a bit, you can scroll through the wheel, it'll increase it, but if you're in 800 ISO, it'll actually cap it so you can't go too far, and it's not actually changing it in your settings on your camera from what you're recording. So you'll be able to go in post after and change the ISO if you have the right plugin for Adobe Premiere Pro or some other software that's out there. Or you can just simply play around with the exposure controls in the editing software as well. But it is not going to actually be changing it. It'll be locking it in at 800, or if you switch to 12,800, it's locking it in there as well. In my opinion, I think this is absolutely fantastic because sometimes you forget when you're just on the run, when you're doing a quick shoot, you might forget to be keeping it at one of the two base ISOs. I've done this in the past. I shot a music video last year and it was outdoor at night. It was getting a lot darker and I increased the ISO and I knew I had to go up to 12,800 for the base ISO there, but I didn't go all the way there. I forgot to go exactly to that. So my footage was just so noisy and it did not look great at all. So if I had a quick way of just toggling between the two main base ISOs, I wouldn't have had that problem. So now this is just simply built in this new menu system for shooting in log. And the third new addition in this update is the ability to add LUTs right into the camera. So if you want to load them from your computer directly into your camera, you can actually load up to 16 of your own LUTs in there. So while you're recording, you just turn on one of those LUTs and you'll see exactly how to look once you add those LUTs to your footage in the computer. It will not be hard coding that in or baking it into your footage. So when you do film, it is still filming in log. So if you're shooting an S-Log3, it will still look very flat, very colorless, and it's exactly how you want it to be to have that full control. So this is not the quick way to shoot. It's not going to give you the look you're looking for right out of the camera, but it is the best way to be previewing exactly what your footage will look like. So after that, once you film it, then it's super easy to go on the computer, drop on the LUT, and you'll be able to get exactly the same look that you had while you're filming. So there's no more guesswork anymore. Now, I know some field monitors actually allow you to do this as well. So that's what I've done in the past. I put it on there, so it allowed me to kind of preview in the same sense, but I always found it wasn't exactly the same. There was always some differences to that. So I find that this way, it pretty much looks exactly the way it should. So this is just such a great feature, a great new addition, which again brings it in line with other cinema cameras like the FX6 and the FX9. Now, before I talk about the fourth and final awesome new feature that is included in this update here, if you are looking to elevate and update other things in your life, not just your camera, not just the software on your camera, but if you're looking to elevate and update your wardrobe, I want to take a moment to talk about Cuts Clothing. If you've been following me on Instagram or even on YouTube for the past year, you'll notice that I have completely upgraded my entire wardrobe. I've been wearing everything from t-shirts to hoodies to long sleeve tops to polos like this one right over here, as well as some awesome new shorts and even some pants. And let me tell you, it is absolutely fantastic if you are a content creator or if you're a filmmaker like me, because the clothes look professional, they look very stylish, and they just absolutely keep you cool and dry when you're on the run and on the go. But the other great thing about these clothes is it actually looks fantastic if you're going to be going to a meeting, if you're going to be going on a date at night, going out for dinner, or anything in between. So these clothes are very versatile and they'll have you covered for absolutely any of your main needs. And with the current summer collection, you can actually grab a lot of their new stuff, like the new shorts and like these button-up shirts that you have seen me wearing in previous videos. So if you want to look great for the rest of the summer and going into the fall, make sure you check out Cuz Clothing today. And if you go to the link in the description down below, you'll save 15% off your entire order. But enough of that, let's get back to the fourth and final new feature that is included in this new update for the Sony FX3, and that is proper timecode syncing. They finally included proper timecode in this camera, and that is the single biggest thing that really elevates this camera to make it a true cinema camera. So this will allow you to properly sync it with other cameras. So if you have multiple FX3s on set for a bigger production, if you are also shooting with other cameras like the FX6, the FX9, you can sync these cameras up seamlessly, which is exactly what you need to do for a bigger production with a bigger crew. Now, the only thing is you will need to use a new cable that Sony has just come out with. So you'll have to purchase that if you want this whole timecode thing to work properly. But this camera was severely lacking this feature, and I'm so happy that this feature is finally here because it'll really make things easier to have a bigger production and to have multiple cameras synced up. So there you have it. That is what is included in Sony's new version 2.0 software update for the Sony FX3. I really do think that these features in this update do elevate this camera a lot and really do classify this camera as a cinema camera. I was calling it a cinema camera light or a budget cinema camera for the longest time because it was missing quite a few things. And now this camera is still not perfect. It didn't go all the way where it needs to go in terms of features that other cinema cameras have, but I really feel like this closes the gap enough. And I truly, truly believe that this camera is now a good enough cinema camera through and through. Hopefully Sony will update a few more things in the future because there are still a couple of things that I do want to see, but again, I think this camera is finally there. I think it can finally be called a true cinema camera.